Howdy geographers, and welcome to our first lesson, and we're going to do an introduction to geography. And some of you might have heard this before, but it's always good to hear the same thing again. It's called remembering. Okay, our learning goals for today, and you've got to write these down. We have 3 of them. You're going to know what content you learn in high school geography, so that's year 7, 8, 9 and 10. You're going to know some important geography skills, and you're going to know what the study of geography is. So make sure you write down those 3 learning goals. Okay, so normally I would get you to write down everything that's in white as notes, but in these first 2 introductory videos, I'm not going to request that. So just listen and learn. So what content is in the curriculum? At year 7, you learnt about water in the world. Can you remember that far back? Who knows? You also learnt about place and livability. You'll notice that there are 2, and this is in a future slide, but there are 2 branches of geography, human geography and physical geography. And we try to make sure that there's one topic from each of those 2 branches in each year level. Yeah, so water in the world is your physical geography, place and livability is your human geography for year 7. In year 8, you learned about landforms and landscapes, rainforests, and changing nations, which is just a fancy, strange word meaning that was actually about urbanization. So the landforms and landscapes and rainforests were the physical geography, and the urbanization was the human geography. In year 9, you learned about biomes, physical geography, food security, and in particular the Murray-Darling Basin, where heaps of Australia's food comes from, and interconnections, and by that we mean trade and tourism. This year, in year 10, you're going to learn about climate change. That's our first big topic. It's a biggie. Well-being and urban management. Fun times. Alright then, so what are some important skills that we want you to learn? Well, a big one is questioning, asking interesting questions. Yeah, there's not that much point in us hammering you full of content that you can find out on your phone in 5 seconds. These days, the quality of the questions that you ask is just as important. Good geographers are all about collecting, selecting and recording data. Evaluating the sources of information. So if you're finding information from a website, is that website reliable or is it full of it? We're going to show you lots of graphs, and we're going to ask you to interpret graphs and also to create your own graphs. And we'll be looking at a few different types of graphs in a minute. And maps. Going to be showing you lots of maps and asking you to interpret those maps. What do they mean? Trying to get information from them. And also you'll have some opportunities to make some of your own maps. Applying geographical concepts, and they are the ones that you will have heard in earlier year levels. The SPICES concepts: space, place, interconnection, change, environment, scale, sustainability. Presenting your findings, so you'll be doing a variety of different report formats or short videos, speeches. We're going to try and give you as many choices as we can. And finally, proposing action. So geographers take all this information and suggest actions that government or businesses or individuals or whatever can take. A lot of skills there. Okay. What is the study of geography? It's a study of the physical features of the Earth and its atmosphere, and of human activity and its effects, and is affected by these, including the distribution of populations and resources, and political and economic activities. That's the dictionary definition of geography. And as mentioned, it has 2 main branches: physical geography, which is a natural science that deals with the 4 spheres, the atmosphere, that's the thin layer of gases around the outside of the planet, the hydrosphere, that's all the water and ice on Earth, the biosphere, that's everything that's alive on Earth, and the lithosphere, that's all of the rock. And the other branch is human geography. Yeah, it's a social science that deals with people, communities, cultures, economies, interactions between people and the environment. So geography is this very interesting subject in that it's 2 different types of science, a natural science, or geography is often considered a part of earth science, and a social science. So it really straddles between being a physical science like biology and being a social science like economics. Yay! So there are sub-disciplines. Within the physical geography half, here are all the disciplines that you can get involved in, and these are all avenues for employment in the geography area. Believe it or not, geography is an area where there's a lot of employment growth. There's a lot of environmental challenges that are going to be big news in your lifetimes, and here's a whole different massive set of disciplines. So you could be a biogeographer, a climatologist, a coastal geographer, a paleogeographer, a quaternary scientist. Fun. And equally for the human geography side of things, these are all the different types of geographers that you could be. You could be an urban geographer, you could be an economic geographer, you could be a religious geographer, you could be a social geographer. All words with geographer at the end of them. So again, these are all different types of employment that you could have with your geography education. Yay! We geographers use geographic language when describing physical stuff on Earth, okay? So when we're talking about maps, we talk about east, south, west, and north. We don't talk about above, below, left or right, or middle, yeah? So start using those compass directions when you're describing things on maps. We use the concept words, the SPICES words, space, place, interconnection, change, environment, scale, sustainability, but there's also some other ones which are more common when you get into VCE, and they are distance, distribution, movement, process, region, spatial association. We'll mostly focus on the SPICES concepts though. Make sure that you use correct names for landforms. That's a hill, that's a plateau, not that's a lump. We describe regions correctly, so continents, but also regions. So places that are not whole continents, but are just areas like the Middle East, Southeast Asia, Asia Pacific, which is where we are, or the Caribbean, for example. We describe natural phenomenon. We describe natural resources, spatial dimensions using the metric system, and we describe data. Okay, so those concepts, as mentioned, SPICES. Space is the physical location of something on Earth. Your school is located 17 kilometers northwest of the Melbourne CBD. Place is the meaning that humans put on certain spaces. Your school is a community for learning. Interconnection is how people and things are connected. You could say that your school connects different learners with teachers. It connects friends with each other. Change is how time changes things. So you could say, 100 years ago, my school was just a field, and now it's an urban environment. The environment is the physical world we live in. So you could say that your school has some built environmental aspects, but also it's got plants and animals, cats, crows, who knows. Scale, that's how we look at certain geographical things at a different scale. So looking at it from the, your seat in the classroom to the whole class, to middle school, to the whole school, to your suburb, to Melbourne, to Victoria, and so on. And which scale you look at a problem makes a really big difference about how you might want to deal with it. And finally, sustainability. And this is a really big concept in geographic thinking at the moment because humans have lived unsustainably for so long. Sustainability is the ability to keep doing the same thing into the future. Sustainability is not just living green. You can apply sustainability to other things as well. For example, financial sustainability would be not spending more than you earn. There you go. These concepts are really important. We've found that the biggest difficulty that students have is using these concept words well. So if you want to do really well, and I know you will do, then start using them meaningfully. In geography, there's all different types of maps. Here we've got a political map, and political maps highlight political distinctions. So this one has got a different color based on the state and has a red dot for every state or territory capital. It doesn't concern itself too much with physical stuff. It's all about political division. Then we do have physical maps. So this one here shows the physical layout of Australia, different shades of green and beige depending on the topography and how high above sea level it is. And we have topographic maps, and there's a few different ways to represent topographic maps. This one here is showing different color based on how high above sea level it is. So the areas shaded in white are the highest, i.e. mountains, and the areas in sort of light green are lowlands, plains, and then you've got your brown, which is probably desert there, I would say. There's a couple of different types of topographic map though. Here's another one, and this is just using a different color scheme, and it's just looking at how high above sea level stuff is. So if you have a look at that, most of Melbourne CBD and the port area are actually very low to sea level. So if climate change kicks in hardcore and the sea level rises, then, you know, South Bank, Port Melbourne, they're going to have some issues. A more old-fashioned way of showing topographic maps, and this is probably since before we had like good technology where we could show it using color, is this topographic map where each line represents how high above sea level a certain spot is. So if you have a look at that, Able Hill, along the bottom here you got, right, everything on that yellow line is exactly 10 meters above sea level, and it's showing you what, so this stuff up the top is showing you the same thing but from a bird's eye view. And so that that yellow line there is this here. Yeah. So everything in there is 10 meters above sea level. Now that means that everything in here, this red line, is in between 10 and 20 meters above sea level. Yeah, same here. Equally, everything that I'm highlighting in green is in between 20 and 30 meters above sea level. We're not going to go on about that too much because we probably don't look at topographic maps too much. They're a little bit old-fashioned. Another type of map, and there's lots of different types of thematic maps. Here's one. This is called a dot map, and it shows the larger the dot, the more of something there is. And this is showing how many Walmarts, which is like Kmart, there are in each state, and it shows you that there are more Walmarts in the eastern states in the US, probably because they're more populated. Another type of thematic map is a dot map here, and this is showing the number of Hispanic people in the USA. One dot equals 100,000 Hispanic people, and you can see that they are located primarily in Texas and California, which is probably because before the American-Spanish War, those places were actually part of Mexico. Fun times. Right. We draw and interpret maps in geography, and there is an acronym, which you may have heard before, BOLTS, and it stands for B stands for border, which shows you the edge of the map. O stands for orientation, shows you which way is north. L stands for legend, shows you what all the symbols and the colours on your map mean. T is the title, tells you what your map's about. S is the scale, shows you how much smaller your map is than the real thing. There's various different ways to do scale, which if we need to, we'll discuss at a later date. And the source, where did you get your information for that map from? BOLTS, border, orientation, legend, title, scale, source. Let's talk about graphs. Briefly, there's three main graph types that we discuss here. There's obviously 1,000 bazillion different types of graphs, but in particular we've got line graphs. Line graphs are really good for tracking change over time. That's what it would typically be used for, yeah? So this is showing you the change in temperature over time of some area. Another one is bar graphs. They're really good to compare different things. So this is comparing the population in different states. And then finally we've got pie charts. Pie charts are really good for showing proportions of a whole for showing percentages or whatever. Yeah. So, what were they? Line graphs, good for showing change over time. Bar graphs, good for comparing. Pie charts, good for showing proportions or percentages. Now, maps having an acronym to remind you about all the important parts of them. So do graphs, and it's not bolts, it's bouts. You have a border, so you put a border around the edge of your graph. You label the axes. What do the units mean going across the bottom and going up the top? Don't assume that people know what they mean. Always write in the vertical and the horizontal axis, the X and the Y. There's a legend, tells you what the colours or the bars mean. There's going to be a title telling you quickly what your chart's about. That will help for people to interpret it. And then a source, where did you get your information from? So if you get it from the internet, put a real short URL. You don't have the long one, just abs.gov.au would be fine. Remember, your source is never Google. Google just points you to stuff on the internet. It doesn't contain the information itself. Really quickly, latitude and longitude. So the easy way to remember this, a great geography teacher I know taught me, latitude, it's the flat one, dude. Yeah, so latitude are the lines that go east-west. The line that goes through the middle of the Earth is called the equator. The lines that go north-south are called lines of longitude. And the one that goes through London, or Greenwich, which is a suburb of London now, I guess, is called the prime meridian. So the equator goes through the center of the Earth east-west, and the prime meridian goes through the center of the Earth north-south. That's just a convention that London's considered the prime meridian there. Here we go, there's those same lines of latitude and longitude on a globe. We've got some other lines as well. So we've got the equator. Anything north of that's obviously called the northern hemisphere. Anything south of that's called the southern hemisphere. But you've also got the Tropic of Cancer, which is above the equator, and the Tropic of Capricorn, which is below the equator. The way I like to remember that is, you know, Cancer is also a disease. It's an astrological sign. That's why it's got a tropic named after it. But I just think, you know, Cancer's on top because it's certainly on top of humans. And then you've got your Arctic Circle and your Antarctic Circle. And you can actually divide the world into three categories based on these. So in the middle here, with my funky red highlighting, that there is called the tropics. Yeah, where the seasons are not very pronounced and it's generally pretty hot. That's the tropics. These next zones between the tropics and the Arctic and Antarctic, they're called the temperate zone. We live in a temperate zone, although northern Australia is in the tropics. Yeah, so temperate zone there, temperate zone there. And then right at the top, you got what's called the polar zones, or the frigid zones. Let's see if I can get a bit of blue there. There you go. Yep. So in the middle, you've got the tropics. Above and below that, you've got the temperate zone. And then right at the top and right at the bottom, you've got the polar zones, or the frigid zone. We have 6 or 7 continents, depending on whether you count Antarctica, North America, South America, Europe, Africa, Asia, and Australia, or some people say Oceania. Let me just make one point here. Africa is a continent, not a country. I don't want to hear anyone telling me, what country is that? Oh, Africa. Africa is home to over 50 countries. Africa has more than 1/4 of all of the countries on the planet. Okay? So let's not be Africa illiterate. There you go, 7 continents. Here's the location of some major countries. I'm not going to go on about that a bit too much because I've got a hilarious song that's going to sing it all to you in a minute. Now, there's been a lot of content in this lesson, so I'm not going to get you to do too much in the way of an activity. I simply want you to list 5 jobs that you could do with your geography education. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All of the activities I give you in these videos, you do in your exercise book. And then you take photos later. Okay, we're going to watch a video. It's a song. It's called The Countries of the World. And this will stick in your head. Take it away.
We are the countries of the world, most undisputed sovereign states. But you'll soon learn all our names of the countries in the world. Come join us and sing along with all the countries in the song. I'm Afghanistan, I'm Albania, Algeria is my name, and I am Andorra, Angola here, Antigua and Barbuda. I'm Argentina, and I'm Armenia. Name's Australia, and there's Austria, Azerbaijan, and the Bahamas. My name is Bangladesh, I am Barbados and Belarus. My name is Belgium, and I am Belize. Benin is my name, not Bhutan if you please. I'm Bolivia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Botswana here, Brazil I know I've seen ya. I am Brunei and Bulgaria, you see, Burkina Faso and Burundi. I'm Cambodia and I'm Cameroon. Hello, I'm Canada. Cape Verde's here too. Central African Republic, and I am Chad. Chile, China, Colombia, Comoros is rad. We are the countries of the world, most undisputed sovereign states. But you'll soon learn all our names of the countries in the world. Come join us and sing along with all the countries in the song. Republic of the Congo, Democratic Republic of the Congo too, Costa Rica, Croatia, Cuba and Cyprus too. I'm the Czech Republic, Denmark is my name. I'm Djibouti, Dominica is in the frame. Dominican Republic, East Timor, Ecuador, Egypt and El Salvador. I'm Equatorial Guinea and I'm Eritrea, Estonia, Ethiopia, Fiji and Finland, France, Gabon, Gambia, Georgia, I'm Germany, and my name is Ghana. I am Greece and I am the countries of the world. Most undisputed sovereign states, but you'll soon learn all our names of the countries in the world. Come join us and sing along with all the countries in this song.
Thanks for watching Kids Learning Tube. Please subscribe below and join us next week to learn more about everything.
Very simple reflection activity today. I want you to write this in your book as well. Write reflection activity. I want you to imagine that today's lesson was an event. I want you to write a newspaper headline summarizing today's lesson. That's it, in just one short sentence. And everybody's most fun part of the lesson is homework. Again, this is fairly easy. I just want you to write down what BOLTS stands for, what BOUTS stands for, and what SPACES stands for. Do that all in your exercise book. Thank you so much, geographers, for taking part in this lesson, and make sure you keep it real.